Hello and welcome to the Other Marthas podcast, the show where a drama student and a film graduate try to make sense of things we wish we were qualified in instead. A quick disclaimer before we get started, we don't claim to be experts in any of the fields we'll be discussing, so while everything we say will be based on individual research, this is just a bit of fun and we suggest you take everything we say with a pinch of salt. I'm Martha, I'm the drama student.
And I'm the other Martha, the film graduate.
Lovely. So Martha, what are we talking about today?
Today we are going to be talking about bizarre beasties, amazing animals, clever creatures, and
My
stupid
God, I
species.
didn't know that she was going to do that, and I'm so delighted. That's right, we're talking about creatures that are so stupid that they fundamentally should not still be existent, but somehow they are, whether through human intervention or their own mad desire to reproduce. And we thought we'd do them some justice today.
You're doing stupid animals.
True.
And I am doing one very weird animal, so weird everyone thought it was a prank, and one animal that might one day take over the world. Just saying, I am pro that happening.
Talking of which, that second animal, spoiler alert, but the octopus.
Yeah.
Right. This will be a really interesting episode because I have I can't remember what it's called. You know, that phobia of things under the sea. I have that pretty badly, so this is going to be really fun as like a reactionary video as well.
To clarify, I did ask if it was okay.
Yes, she did, and I said I thought it would be hilarious.
I wasn't just like, hey Martha, I'm doing octopuses, so good luck with that.
Which, for anyone, will be a weird message to receive. We're going to start with your common or garden-ish, well, not common or garden, that's the issue, land mammal, the panda, which I'm sure many of you will be aware is very stupid and bad at being alive, because there's a surprising number of very vehement people arguing that we should leave pandas to die because they don't try, and a surprising number of counter arguments for why actually they're really cool. I'll get on to what I think about that presently. To start with, pandas have recently made the transition from the endangered to the vulnerable category thanks to conservation efforts. I believe that status was changed in 2016. However, these efforts, as I've mentioned, have become increasingly controversial because pandas cannot be asked to keep themselves alive. I read an article actually that compared pandas to the British royal family. I think it's very apt and also kind of hilarious. This article argued that they're essentially a propaganda and diplomacy emblem for their respective countries of origin. So pandas being Chinese and the British royals being British, and they bring people in, but they also cost your average taxpayer a lot of money. Pandas, according to this source, approximately $1 million to rent from China to a foreign country per year, plus tax on each baby born.
If I was a country and I was like, hey, can I borrow a panda, please? Yeah. I had to pay China £1 million.
Yes, $1 million.
Right, okay.
But take that and then compare it to the royal family who cost Britain approximately £345 million per year. I don't want to get controversial, but I know which ones I want to keep around.
So that means we could have 300 pandas here if we wanted.
We could have more than that.
Oh.
Because pounds are worth more than dollars anyway.
So I could probably get myself around 350 pandas.
I would say that's, yeah, likely.
Great. I would love to fill Buckingham Palace with pandas.
Filled all of the royal residences with pandas is beyond me. The first and probably best known uselessness of the panda is that it more or less refuses to breed. So female pandas have approximately a 48-hour window once a year in the spring in which they're fertile. And if they're not inseminated during that period, they cannot get pregnant. So there are a few layers to this reluctance to reproduce. A is the 48-hour window. B, male pandas have some of the smallest penis sizes relative to body size of the animal kingdom. So it's hard for them to actually position themselves in such a way that would result in insemination. And C, if they do successfully reproduce, panda cubs are at a very high risk of dying before they are able to survive on their own because they're born blind and unable to move. Their parents don't recognise them. In fact, it's popularly thought that female pandas don't realise that they're pregnant or giving birth at the time. I don't know what they think is going on. And then when they do give birth to the cubs, they will often forget about them. Finally, panda mothers are known to crush their offspring to death by rolling on them, either because they forget and fall asleep, or to stop them making noise. They will murder their children because they're like, oh Christ, will it just shut up? And they'll roll on them and suffocate them, which is horrifying.
So how have pandas survived this long then?
So panda mating behaviour in the wild is supposedly more successful than panda mating behaviour in captivity, which begs the question, why did we try to conserve them by putting them into captivity? But I'm sure that's a much bigger question. The female's fertility window remains ridiculously small, so does the male's apparatus. You like that?
Yeah, I liked that joke. It was a good one.
Thanks. According to legendary zoologist George Schaller in 1981, the breeding season actually goes on for several months. The female panda kind of climbing a tree and watching. Well, a lot of males fight it out over which one gets to mate with her. And then when she's sort of gone, yeah, this one or these ones seem all right, she might deign to come down. At which point, given that there's a 48-hour window in which to do it, they just go at it. Copulations are apparently a lot more vigorous and frequent. I'm not quoting, but I am trying to stop this from becoming too pornographic. They frequently involve more than one male as well. So basically, pandas aren't bad at reproducing. It's just that they're too kinky for the average zoo to be able to cater for. And to the extent that zoos have tried to remedy it by making panda porn to try and get them in the mood. They've used Viagra on male pandas. They do rectal stimulation. It always weirds me out a bit, the lengths to which zoologists are willing to go to keep a species alive.
I was watching a documentary the other day which is called Edwardian Farm.
Wow.
And it was an episode in which they were starting their own fish farm in the Edwardian style. So they milked a female trout for her eggs, which was disturbing to watch anyway. And then the fish farm man was like, oh no, we've got the eggs, we need to fertilize them, here's some trout milk. And he was like, and we just stir that into the eggs. And it was never asked, but how do you gather that?
Yeah, I enjoy watching Animal Park, which is a great programme on...
I didn't know where that P was going then.
Park! But it does uncover some things that I would love to have been left to my imagination, or ideally outside of even that realm. There's quite a lot of, and I won't mince my words here, wanking animals off. But it's just part of the job apparently, so well done to those valiant zookeepers who are having to do unspeakable things to conserve.
You put a glove on?
Species. Yeah. They're not like, the skin on skin experience is preferable. They're not weird. But
Right,
they are
okay.
weird. They're not that weird. So basically, they're a lot randier in the wild, and about 60% of their cubs do supposedly tend to survive to their first birthday in the wild. Another reason why pandas should for sure have died out by now, we know that they're famed for their bamboo diet, and many people may also be aware that they are actually built as carnivores. Their digestive system is made for digesting meat. Their teeth are made for breaking down meat, but they only live off bamboo. And because they are basically incapable of digesting pretty much any nutrients from the bamboo, they have to eat about 40 pounds of bamboo a day just to get enough nutrients to continue being, which has actually meant that bamboo in the wild is more or less extinct, despite the fact that there are so few pandas. They eat so much bamboo that there's even less bamboo. But yeah, they spend over half of their lives searching out, preparing and eating bamboo. Also, the camo front, what the hell are they doing? They live in bamboo forests and they are black and white. Now this is where my conspiracy theory begins, because the only way that I can see being black and white working to your advantage is if you have predicted the early camera and think, oh yeah, people will be wanting to film us in the wild. They won't be looking with their real eyes. They'll be looking through these lenses that make everything black and white. They won't see us. It doesn't bear any speculation, that theory, so just keep it there and go, wow, if you would.
Wow, I'm amazed.
Thank you. So basically, all of this would seem to point to pandas being incredibly stupid, but in my opinion, they are so stupid that they cannot be that stupid. Like, there are things that are just inconveniently going out of their way to be stupid about this, that makes me think that they are playing us for fools, and they've realised that they don't need to do anything to survive except be vaguely cute, because then we will do the work for them. For instance, we know their mating behaviour in the wild is more reliable than in captivity. They just don't bother in captivity. On the frequent occasions where artificial insemination or just being pregnant in captivity hasn't worked, female pandas have been known to fake pregnancy because they know they'll get preferential treatment. This is a documented thing. But what I don't know is if they're just like carrying their weight heavier, or if they're like changing the chemical composition of their wee. You know, there's like a difference here.
But if the female pandas don't know they're pregnant when they're pregnant because they're so stupid,
I thought
then
that too.
how can they fake it?
I don't know. And that's where it doesn't quite add up. So I'm thinking maybe where they don't have to be aware of their own pregnancy because they don't really care and they'll happily squash their cub as soon as it's born. And they somehow have evolved to, I guess, not really feel childbirth either, or just to think it's a stomach cramp. They apparently are sufficiently aware of not only the symptoms that a panda pregnancy would have, but also the human reaction to those symptoms, and thereby the fact that humans want them to continue reproducing, right? And so if they know that we're doing the work for them, why they got to bother?
Here's my theory. They've seen other pregnant female pandas being like, oh, I've got morning sickness or whatever pandas get when they're pregnant. And they've seen that she is getting
more bamboo,
nicer cuts of bamboo or whatever. And so then the female panda who isn't pregnant but's watched that happen, she's been like, oh, if I also do that thing, I'll get the snacks.
Yeah, see, that's what I imagine as well. But most zoos, because of the expense of pandas and their rarity, will not have more than one panda of each sex max.
No.
And also, if they don't know when they're pregnant, I don't know if they would know by looking at other pandas. Yeah, they have a baby panda in there.
No, but I'm not saying that the female pandas that are faking pregnancies know that the other panda's pregnant. They say when that other panda walks like that, she gets more snacks. So I'm going to walk like that, so I get more snacks.
Yes, good point. That might be it. But yeah,
they've Pavlovian conditioned female pandas to walk like they're pregnant.
Maybe I'd have to see if the cases of female pandas, maybe you can look this up for us as becoming tradition for this channel, whether the cases of female pandas faking pregnancy are unique to zoos and conservation areas where there is more than one female panda. Another thing that I think indicates certain slyness on the panda's behalf is that, from what I've seen, females of most species do not have an easy time of it during breeding season. Whereas the panda female has gone, I don't need to reproduce all that much because the humans have got it covered. So I'm just going to climb this tree and watch you all have a nice little fight and apparently get turned on by that, I guess. And then come down, have 48 hours of lovely orgying, and then you're done for the year, which I think is a really efficient way of doing things. Right. The carnivorous digestive system, as well, is not the only predatory trait that the panda has held onto. They also deliver one of the highest bite forces of any carnivore, which they use to crack through bamboo stems because they're so hard. But, you know, they could also use them to crush skulls and such. So what need do they actually have to be able to blend in or be fast? Because if anything comes close to them, they can just quick munch, gone. So to sum up, pandas are probably stupid, but if you really look for things, you can join me on the fun train of they're going to take over the world, and or they're intelligent but just have no particular desire to live, which is a bit depressing. So, you know, pandas, congratulations.
Congratulations, pandas, you have us fooled.
You have us all fooled.
Now, kind listener, you may remove your tinfoil hat and step into a world of slightly less complex conspiracy theories. Please join me in the wild world of the duckbill platypus.
Oh, yes.
Platypuses only live in Australia, which is, I mean, good for them. Go you platypuses. There's a lot of weird animals in Australia.
True.
Another fun thing about platypuses is that they're smaller in the north. I don't want to steal a fact from you, Martha, but so also are koalas.
Ooh, a little bit of foreshadowing there.
Platypuses in the north are around the third of the size of the ones in the south of
Wow.
Australia. Imagine if you were a northern platypus, like, I'm off to the south to make my fortune. And then you meet a southern platypus and it's so much bigger than you. When a platypus corpse was shipped to Britain in the late 19th century, they wondered whether it might be a prank from Australia. What a fun prank to play on someone, to stitch together a duck and a beaver and I don't know what else.
Quite a morbid sort of prank.
Yeah, but I feel like if you're in the business of shipping animal corpses for scientists, you might as well have a bit of fun with them.
Mix and match. Bit of a pick and mix of animal corpses.
Because people are still like, what is this animal? I don't understand. They are trying to like work out what's going on in its DNA and its chromosomes, and it has bird-like sex chromosomes.
Interesting.
Where the female chromosomes choose the sex of the child, platypus and bird. However, platypuses have 5 sex chromosomes and no one knows why.
Amazing.
One video I watched, because I took to researching platypuses how you researched everything previously in the podcast, which was on YouTube, because I didn't want to find any too scientific papers because I knew I wouldn't understand them.
I would like to jump in at this point just to defend my research, because I'm aware that I make a lot of jokes about the fact that I don't research well. I do actually use a variety of sources.
One video that I watched said they developed in Gondwana, which is when South America, Africa and Australia were one continent. So I have some more fun facts about them that just baffle me. Like, what are you, platypus? They are monotremes. So they are mammals that lay eggs.
Ah, what other mammals lay eggs? I'm trying to think, because there are some, I guess.
Shall I look it up?
Yeah.
Egg-laying mammals, St. Louis Zoo. Let's have a look. Show me, teach me Louis, or Louis, or Lulu. No one who spells it like that pronounces it Lulu. I don't know, because they're not actually telling me what animals they are, but there is a part of this that says, I want to be alone.
Brilliant.
Oh, here we are. Oh, they all look absolutely weird. Who are you? Porcupine, maybe?
Porcupine.
A short-beaked echidna.
Echidna. Ah.
Well,
cool.
that's
I
one
didn't
of
know
them.
they laid eggs, though. Fair.
Well, allegedly they do. They have webbed feet and a bill like aquatic birds. Their legs are on the side of their body like reptiles, and they produce milk, but they don't have nipples. So they just secrete the milk out of them, and it pools on their abdomen, where then the babies lick it off.
Oh God, is it like similar to snake milk then? Or is it, wait, no, because when you milk a snake, you just milk their venom, don't you? It's not actually
you don't milk a snake, you drink it.
I knew that, guys. If she doesn't cut that out, she's mean. What is the classification of a platypus, if there is one?
I think it's generally just, they call it a monotreme.
I see.
It's in with those guys, because there are like a bunch of animals that are just weird, but they exist, so, and they don't really fit with what we've already written out, but we love them. Speaking of classification, Darwin was super annoyed at platypuses.
Oh no.
Darwin, when he was traveling around the world, being like, finches, love you guys. Giant tortoises, let me have a ride. I love you. He rode them, not in a creepy way. He turned up in Australia and he saw a platypus that was like, hi Darwin, really sorry, but I don't fit in with any of your plans, and you have no ancestor that you can look at and see clearly that I came from.
Yeah.
So Darwin was worried that people would use the platypus as an example of a fully formed, perfect animal.
I thought you were going to say that he punched it in the face.
No, don't punch a platypus, and I'll tell you for why.
Ooh.
The male platypus has venomous spines on its back legs. The pain can last for months and doesn't respond to morphine. So if you're in the business of picking up a platypus, pick it up by its tail and definitely don't punch it in the face.
Yeah, geez. So is it like, can it be fatal, or does it depend on species, or is it just always pain?
To humans it's pain, but I'm sure something smaller would die of it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I seem to remember sort of reading, or more likely watching, something that listed platypuses as some of the most venomous creatures ever.
Yeah, they'll get you and they don't
they'll
even
get you.
care because they're platypuses.
Like a platypus squad with guns and, you know, doing the little poses, little mask. I think they'd look great.
I never watched it, but Phineas and Ferb have a platypus who wears a hat and carries a gun.
That's so cool. I never knew that. See, I could have come up with that. I didn't.
So yeah, Darwin hated platypuses, but I suppose instead of just killing all the platypuses, which would have solved his problem, he was just sort of like, it's a really cool creature and I love it very much. In fact, when it was killed, I think he said something, because he asked a guy, because he's weird, he was like, hey, can you please shoot this platypus so I can look at it close up? Because that's what he did. And he said it was an honor to be at the death of such a remarkable creature, something like that. So he hated them, but also loved them.
Yeah.
And my final fun fact about how weird platypuses are is that they use electrolocation through their bill, because when they dive in the water, which is where they live most of the time, they close their eyes and their ears. So they use electrolocation to figure out where their prey are. They then capture their prey, store them in pockets in their bill, where then they're ground up with pebbles the platypus put there earlier because they don't have teeth.
That's so cool. Oh my god. And what exactly is electrolocation?
I think it's similar to echolocation, but where you feel the electric vibrations that animals give off.
Right. Blimey.
Basically, platypuses don't care about your rules. They have got on perfectly fine without anyone telling them exactly what they are. About platypi, that's not the correct way of saying it, platypus evolution. Australia once had loads of monotremes, tons of them. Couldn't move for a monotreme, tripping over them you were, which I shall remind you are mammals that lay eggs. I just thought I'd remind you because I'd forgotten. So what ended up happening with all the monotremes that you were tripping over in Australia was along came the marsupials. And they basically pushed all the monotremes out, and the ones that survived the marsupial invasion took to the water, which is why platypuses live in the water.
That's such a shame.
Is my platypus fact dump.
I'm impressed. I love the thing with the stones and the pouches in the bill. That's amazing. Talking of the marsupial invasion, I'm going to be talking about the koala. I didn't mean to be talking about the koala because I feel like people tend to know that the koala is quite stupid. But the thing is, in all of my research, including turkeys that drown in the rain because they can't stop looking at it, and a bird that deals with predators by freezing, I could not find anything as blindingly idiotic as the koala. And I'm really sorry that they took over the platypus's domain, because clearly monotremes are really cool. And while other marsupials may have sort of earned their place in Australia through natural selection, koalas haven't. I don't know how they're still here.
But maybe in the past there was a koala that was like a hench koala that could take you out, and over time they've become more stupid because they don't need to be kicking platypuses left, right and centre.
Maybe, but they do need to be doing things like eating not a poison, and not starving to death, and not eating poo. Various bits and bobs that, like, you would think if they've maybe evolved to not have to be able to kill things with their bare hands anymore, they could still keep a few basic faculties. So we'll begin at the beginning. Little baby koala in mama koala's pouch. Oh, it starts off on milk. That's all good. Classic mammal. We love it. Now it needs to start making the transition from milk to eucalyptus, which, by the way, is poisonous. But it's the only thing that koalas will eat. The mama koala will just sort of poo out a little bit of semi-digested eucalyptus stuff called fecal pap. The baby koala will just, thank you very much, mum, nom 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 nom. So they don't have to deal with the full issue of digesting the poison that they're being trained to eat. They just have to eat it in their parents' poo. The koala does have the highest hindgut to body ratio of any mammal. It has a lot of stomachs. It has a big old digestive system because, again, it needs to digest poison. Koalas also have the smallest brain to body size ratio of any mammal, and it's completely smooth. So as not a neuroscientist or a biologist or anything like that, all I can tell you is that crinkly brain is clever, smooth brain is not.
You've chosen two animals that only eat one quite stupid thing?
I have. I think koalas do take the biscuit. Or it would be a lot better if they did take the biscuit, but they won't. Only eucalyptus, and only in certain environments. So if you pick eucalyptus leaves, you're like, hey, look, koala, look at me picking eucalyptus leaves from this tree, and now I'm going to put them on the ground. It won't recognize that they are still eucalyptus leaves. You can be in a room full of potential food and it will starve to death. Like, it won't even go, oh, well, it looks a bit like eucalyptus leaf. Maybe I'll try it. Like, it's not like it can poison me because what I eat is poison anyway. It just goes, oh, there's not a eucalyptus tree here.
So I watched a video on koalas a while ago, and one of my favourite things that I learnt about them was that they also have a favourite eucalyptus tree.
Yes.
And when they've eaten all of the leaves off of that, they're like, oh, well, I've run out of my favourite tree, so I'll die now.
Yeah, koalas will starve to death as a surprisingly early resort, where the options could be give it a go, climb into the next tree, just quite simple things. They go, I guess I'm starving to death. Another thing that makes koalas starve to death, because they only eat eucalyptus, their teeth take quite a lot of damage from all this grinding because they have to really break it down, because again, it's a poison. And most herbivores, in fact most animals in general, have adapted to deal with the repercussions of what they eat dentally. So kangaroos, I think, and rodents have teeth that just never stop growing. Sharks obviously have several, like 9 layers of teeth, I think it is, so they can just push forward when they're required. As you would imagine, animals have generally adapted to be able to eat the thing that they eat, or things that they eat, in the case of anything normal. Koalas have adapted to do absolutely nothing. If they manage to survive until this point, their teeth will erode and then they just starve to death. Male koalas, unlike pandas, very keen to breed, to the extent that they will often go up a tree and try and drag the female out of it to breed, but they'll get a bit carried away and they'll accidentally drag them both off the tree and then fall to the ground and die. And this happens so often that they've not evolved to, have teeth that work, but they have evolved to have an above average quantity of cerebrospinal fluid in their brains to cushion it, because they fall off trees trying to mate so much.
I figured out the teeth thing. Welcome to my scientific TED Talk. The reason that they haven't developed teeth that mean that they can live a really long time is because they only need to live long enough to breed. So the koalas that had the padding around their brain that allowed them not to die when they fell out of a tree trying to breed.
That's because they still need to live so they can breed, but...
Yeah, passed on the brain cushion so you can breed. But the koalas that died of their teeth being rubbish had probably already created a few more.
Yeah, it's a very good point. I guess a lot of animals, well, pretty much all animals in a way work like that. So to sum up, they eat poo, they then graduate to poison, which gradually wears down their teeth until they starve to death, unless they get overeager and accidentally do like a murder-suicide jump. When they're not doing these suicidal activities, they sleep for 80% of their lives and occasionally just scream. Koalas, unlike the panda, which I think may be, in fact, trying to take over the world, they're just stupid. But it's quite lovely to learn about. And I do love koalas. I think they're beautiful, but not the smartest.
You can love something that's stupid.
Absolutely.
You love me.
Yeah.
On to the octopus, who is what I will be discussing for you.
Again, a quick reminder, I have a phobia, so this may be amusing or it may just be very quiet from my end.
I want to preface this by saying the octopus is one of my favourite animals. I'm going to start with some fun facts about the octopus. There's 300 known species of octopuses.
Jesus Christ.
Oh, before I get onto this, I actually want to talk about the plural of octopus. Because when I discuss one of my favourite animals, my beloved, the octopus, who I'm hugging a stuffed toy octopus.
It's not helping from my viewpoint.
He's called Inky the Octopus from Jellycat, if you want one. So whenever I talk about my beloved, the octopus, everyone says, it's octopi when I say the plural of octopuses, which is octopuses. Yeah, it's octopi. It isn't. The word octopus comes from ancient Greek, so it would in fact be octopodides would be the plural of octopus. But because I am not an ancient Greek, I will be saying octopuses.
That's actually really interesting.
If anyone ever says octopi to you, slap them in the face with an octopodides. Literally or figuratively, whichever you have closest to hand.
Yeah, whatever's more convenient for you at the time.
There's 300 known species of octopus. The smallest octopus is the starsucker pygmy octopus, which is 1.5 centimeters
Okay, I can do that.
measurements. The largest octopus, which I think is where you'll have more problems, is the giant Pacific octopus with an arm span of 4.5 meters.
Jesus Christ.
So if anyone who has been trying to social distance by 2 meters and have actually measured out 2 meters rather than just assuming what 2 meters is, having never figured out how long 2 meters is, it's longer than you think. Please err on the side of caution. It's double and then a bit of 2 meters. It's massive. It's a big boy. They have 6 arms and 2 legs.
Interesting.
None of which professionals seem to refer to as tentacles. Octopuses have 3 hearts and blue blood because it's copper-based and not iron-based.
Oh, interesting.
They also have a beak, which is the only part of an octopus I don't like. I agree with you there. I hate the beak.
What's the beak?
It's their like mouth.
Oh, of course it is.
They're able to live at the actual bottom of the sea.
Oh, God.
And they have 15,000 pounds of pressure per square inch.
Jesus.
The octopus, no crushable parts. They can fit through any space that their beak can, and their beak is generally around an inch.
So the 4 and something meter giant octopus can fit through an inch of space.
The giant Pacific octopus, its beak probably is larger because it's bigger. So fear not for that octopus appearing. He will not.
It'd still be terrifying though if you were stuck behind somewhere and going, oh, well, at least I'm, behind this nice net, and it's just like.
Sorry, are you suggesting that if you were in the ocean and you were in a net, you'd be like, well,
at least the octopuses can't get me, and then things would get even worse.
Octopuses don't hunt people. I'll start there.
Okay, well, that's good. That's even
the big boys, no people. They have venomous saliva. The blue ringed octopus, its bite and venomous saliva is 10,000 times more toxic than cyanide.
Whoa.
So maybe if you're trying to assassinate a Russian devilish monk, perhaps get a blue ringed octopus on him instead of cyanide.
If Felix Yusupov had just listened to episode 4 of our podcast, he'd have been all right.
It can kill a human in under 90 minutes, which means it'll kill Rasputin in 4 days.
Yeah.
Unlike a panda, they're very good at disguise. They can match their texture and colour to their environment.
Oh my God.
But they are colourblind, so no one's certain how they match their colour to what they see because they don't see the colour they see.
That's horrifying.
If you frighten an octopus, it'll go white.
Oh, I think that's sort of cute.
It's been observed that octopuses change colours while they sleep, which would suggest that they dream.
This might cure my phobia because I've twice now awed at an octopus.
Let's do sharks next week.
No.
I want to tell you about another cute little octopus that you might love. It's called the mimic octopus, and they pretend to be other sea animals. So they pretend to be, there's like one kind of flatfish, and they squish all their tentacles to like a flatfish.
That's so cool.
And they also pretend to be poisonous zebrafish and sea snakes.
Wow. I swear this is something that I've noticed about sea creatures, which I hate that I'm scared of them because they are fascinating and so varied, but they're generally really good tricksters. Like a lot of them will disguise themselves as other ones or as coral and do it really, really well.
I think it's also similar in insects, like butterflies.
Yeah, agreed.
Which is
the
my
weird
phobia.
Things. Fascinating.
You're going to do a butterfly episode.
Next week, crickets!
I'm not scared of crickets. Although there was one once it was a hotel, but it was a hotel that had rooms in houses.
I see, yeah.
So it was like a cute little hotel. Me and my mum went to stay, and there was a cricket in our room that was the biggest cricket I've ever seen. Imagine the opening of a Pringles can.
Oh my God.
It was just big enough for that. We called him Alfred the Great, and he sat on our bed for ages and hopped along the wall and crept. And me and my mum sat at the opposite side of the bedroom, staring at it, laughing, and wondering who will capture Alfred, until about an hour and a half in, I got bored and wanted to go to the beach. I tipped all my Pringles out of my Pringle tube and just captured him.
Oh my God. I'm impressed, bearing in mind, we have been in a situation before wherein an admittedly large and fast-moving spider interrupted our game of Trivial Pursuit, and we both were alarmed, and
let me interrupt here. It
all
was
right.
really fast, and again, imagine a large mug opening that large.
Yeah, which actually I can verify, because when I then tried to catch it, 2 of its legs came off. Anyway, Martha wet herself.
Okay, I want to clarify again. It was fight or flight. We were having a lovely, relaxing game. All of a sudden, death creature appeared. And when things are running at you, they seem bigger. And so I ran. And while I ran, but also it was partly because I was laughing and needed a wee
That's true.
beforehand.
We were a bit hysterical.
Yeah, I did slightly urinate into my shorts, and I had to get Martha to pass me clean pants and shorts.
I didn't know what had gone on. She just ran to the bathroom laughing and apparently weeing.
Yeah, right down.
And then I hear the shower, and then, Martha, can you just get me some new shorts? Sure thing.
And I was really annoyed because I wanted to wear the shorts that I was wearing to meet our friend the next day, and I had to wear different shorts because my shorts were covered in wee from fear. Octopuses can regrow their arms.
So they're like Doctor Who. They use their healing energy to... That is amazing.
We've got multiple hearts.
The Doctopus.
Doctopus Who?
The name's Who. Doctopus Who.
Another fun fact about octopus arms is that a third of their neurons are in their arms, so their arms can act independently. Sometimes octopuses do watch their arm sneaking away from them to do its own thing, and then they're like, oh wait a second, that's my arm. So those are my octopus fun / nightmarish facts, depending on who you are.
To be fair, as sort of the control group for nightmarish, I actually found that largely interesting and sometimes cute.
I want to talk about the evolution of the octopus. There are very few octopus fossils because they're mostly squish. Around 416 million years ago, they split from other cephalopods, and around 600 million years ago is when cephalopods diverged from everything else.
Right.
So our and everyone else's common ancestor with the octopus is 600 million years ago.
That's an early split.
Yeah, because also everyone else was like, okay, thanks cephalopods, see you later. And the cephalopods were like, we'll be fine without you.
And they're right. We're pretty screwed, and well, I mean, we've sort of screwed them as well, but they seem to be doing pretty well.
And they may, in fact, be developing to no longer be screwed by us. We'll get there.
Oh, no.
Which takes me to my next point.
Oh, no.
The theory that octopuses are aliens.
Tinfoil hat's back out, guys.
The reason that they aren't aliens, for the fact that they aren't aliens, is that they're related to other cephalopods. They've been traced to 500 million years ago, if not longer. They are twice as old as dinosaurs. To be fair to the dinosaurs, it's not their fault they don't exist anymore. And then I've just written, but they are weird little guys. So this is part of the reason why I like octopuses so much, is how intelligent they are, and the fact that they are evidence that intelligence can develop basically twice, because there's, you know, the branch with all the everyone else and us, which humans like to assume we're quite clever people. Well, we're the only people, but you know. And then there's the branch with the cephalopods and the octopus, who is also really intelligent, and therefore perhaps there could be intelligent life elsewhere in the universe. Every other animal that has a complex brain that is studied as vaguely intelligent, dogs,
Yeah.
dolphins,
Pigs.
came from the same vertebrate brain blueprint and the same common ancestor. However, octopuses developed in a vacuum, basically. Not in an actual vacuum, because they would look very different, but they're like, hey, I live in the sea and I'm also a genius. We will now move on to octopuses using tools.
Oh my god.
Don't worry, the tools don't threaten you yet.
Jesus.
Welcome to the coconut octopus from Indonesia. So the coconut octopus carry coconut halves around with them. So they walk along the seabed like, hey, don't mind me just carrying my 2 pieces of coconut. And when there's a predator or they get scared, they hide in the shells.
Cool. Do they hide in the shells, like sloop it together?
So they climb into one half of the shell and then they squish it to themselves. But because they've got their suckers, they can just hold it together.
That's amazing.
Scientists, and also me, say that it's a show of their intelligence because they possess forethought. And when they're collecting the coconut shells, they're not like, oh, I need this right now. But they recognize they might need it later to hide in. Octopuses famously can also open jars, complete mazes, and also frequently escape from aquariums.
Oh my god! How?
I'll tell you why. Well, why and how. Often to eat the other fish or to complain about their food. So the reason that octopuses, like how they escape, is first of all, sometimes they're just put in tanks that they can easily get out of, as in open at the top, and they're like, hey, I can climb up this. They're also very easily bored if they're not stimulated. So they'll break the tank and manage to float their way out. They also go in the pipes and escape because they're clever and they're bored easily.
It really is like an alien invasion movie where you're like, oh, they're cute and they're so cool. And then you're like, oh god, they're terrifying. Blimey.
Speaking of octopuses getting bored, if they're kept in a really boring tank, they often eat their own arms for fun.
Oh my god!
They also, if they're bored in their enclosure, will make a big mess. So in 2009, the Santa Monica Pier Aquarium, an octopus took apart its water filter and flooded the room that its tank was in because it was bored.
Oh my god. But would the octopus not then be left without enough water to subsist in?
I guess it was fine. The thing about octopuses as well is sometimes, like, weirdly, they seem quite happy to be out of the water for a while. Yeah. There is only one octopus that can travel across land, but it's not chasing you, it's looking for crabs. But other ones seem quite happy to come out of their tank for a little explore and then go back into it.
Oh my god. Can you imagine working in the aquarium and just coming to the octopus tank and it being empty and going, it could be anywhere?
Here's something about octopuses that I don't really understand, but I want to share. Octopuses can edit their RNA. Octopuses can basically try out various adaptations without long-lasting effects. So the reason that octopuses, I mentioned earlier, might be managing to survive us screwing them over with climate change is that they're editing their RNA to be able to survive climate change. There's also a story about one octopus who was fed, so there's variants on this story I want to start off with. Octopus's favourite food are live crabs, but they will eat frozen shrimp if necessary, as in a lab situation. Right. But sometimes they're not happy with it. So there's a story about one octopus who was fed shrimp, and one version of the story goes that they came out of the tank and threw it at the researcher while they sat at their desk. Wow. And there's which I think is funny because, like, the octopus went to the trouble of escaping just to make a point of, like, hey, I don't like shrimp, which Brilliant. I think is the level I would go to make a point about what I don't want to eat. That. I'd be like, not shrimp, and throw it. The other version of this story is that the octopus swam the length of the tank following the woman who just fed it, holding the shrimp whilst maintaining eye contact with her, and then stuffed it into its water filter to break the tank.
Either way.
They're petty. There's another story which is like general octopus trying to test octopus intelligence doesn't work story, which is that they generally don't do what they're meant to do in experiments. So there was one experiment where the octopus was meant to pull a lever which turned on a light which gave them food. And they were trying to see, you know, when the octopus made the connection, lever, light, food. And one octopus in the experiment decided it didn't want to do that. It ripped the lever off and smashed the light bulb. Which I think is another reason why I love octopuses, because they're contrary and petty like me.
Brilliant.
And that is the octopus. Thank you for listening to the Other Marthas podcast, the show where a drama student and a film graduate discuss things that we have no right to be talking about. If you enjoyed hearing us talk about things we barely understand, please do subscribe to our channel and we will irritate you again next week.